Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this narration of the book A Brood of Two, taken from Reddit. If you are new to the series, there is a playlist listed in the description. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 8, Pensiveness and Preparation. 1 week. It had only been 1 week since the battle for the soul of Yellow Red. Samantha's eyes flickered open as her body responded to the rays of light seeping through the open door of the station. She awoke to a new morning as well as she slept through the previous night, uncomfortably. An improved bread roll was still not particularly pleasant, especially when laid down on a hard tile. At least it wouldn't be coated in the sand this time, a small plus. She groaned as she wiped the sleep from her eyes. Getting up was a painful affair considering her sleeping arrangements, but she had experienced worse on the slave ships that brought her to this world. A quick set of stretches would get most of the aches out. Finishing her wake-up routine, she retrieved her pack and fished out a ration and a small Yali water tank that she had repurposed as a water bottle. Its lack of weight quickly informed her that it was nearly empty. "I'll have to get one from Bitey," she mumbled to herself. "Crap. Bitey and, Mira." Samantha briefly wondered what might be running through his head at the moment. Mira had told her how acute the feeling of loss is to their kind. He was definitely not going to be in a good place mentally. Samantha gathered her things in a flurry. It wouldn't be too good to leave him alone for too long. Hesitation gripped her as she reached the final piece of kit on the floor, her OmniPad. What would happen if she told him what she'd learned from the computers last night? She doubted he'd come off lightly with another emotional sucker punch. It would only be a matter of time before he found out, and then... No. She tucked the OmniPad into the holster that she had affixed to her arm. Bitey shouldn't be left alone. That was the dangerous game for both of them. His bloody smell-based mind-reading crap meant that he would likely learn it one way or another. With any luck, it wouldn't come up for a while at least. That would help soften the blow a little. She threw the pack on her back, finished her ensemble with the hooded white cloak that she'd draped over her body, another piece of scavenged material and a particularly useful item of clothing if you wanted to avoid the burning glare of the desert sun. Samantha made a few final checks to see if the station's computers were synchronized with the OmniPad. Green marks. Good. She'd be notified if satellites picked up anything entering the system. Not a moment later, she strode out into the morning daylight, squinting a little as her eyes adjusted to the glare. No Bitey, she said as she scanned the immediate surroundings. She sighed. He'll be there then. She swallowed a feeling of melancholy and made her way to the park. The slightly taller buildings had meant most of the red space of the park was still draped in the shadow at this time of day. The flat patch of land near the husk of the old tree half illuminated by the beating rays of the light, the other by intermittent darkness. The delicate curve of the minuscule hill had been broken up by the prone, sleeping form of Bitey and the blocky shapes of the headstones. Her eyes traced over each one as she counted. Samantha was almost certain Mira had already passed on during the previous night, but a primal part of her mind clung to the hope that she had still lived. However unreal it was. 5, 6, 7, 8, she counted to herself. 9. Samantha's walking pace slowed to a crawl. She stopped to rub her teary eyes as the last irrational fragment of hope was ripped away. Breathing in a few shuddered breaths, Sam took a minute to recompose herself. She started walking once more. The sound of muffled footsteps was the first sensation that pierced the veil of sleep, if only just. Bitey attempted to ignore it and continued to rest. Thump. Something was dropped next to him, but once again it only barely registered to his consciousness. There was another, smaller thump on the grass and another. Then there was a pressure on the side of his upper thorax. Something was leaning against it. This, finally, was enough to get Bitey to awaken. As his mind started to come to consciousness, information started to pour into his senses. His eyes flickered open to survey the morning light. Antennae swayed as they took in the scents around him. Bitey turned his head to the side to observe what he had come to realize was Samantha, sitting down on the grass and resting her back against him. "I'm going to hazard a guess that you're not in the best place right now," Sam said. Bitey found the sensation of her speech strange when she was in contact with him. The vibrations from her vocal cords spoke in one language, but the translation from her speaker spoke in another. It created an odd sense of dissonance, akin to the weirdest accent that he could imagine. "You, don't have to feel compelled to say anything. It's all right just to sit here." Bitey mulled over the offer, his head laid down on the grass once again as he contemplated. The feeling of isolation washed away, but the sadness remained. "I failed," was all he said. "At what?" "I couldn't protect her." "None of us could. It was a bad place at a bad time. That was going to happen whether we showed up or not. I don't like it, but that's how these things are sometimes." "But I've never felt so powerless, Samantha." His head rose up and he swiveled to look at her. "I can rend steel and carve platoons of soldiers apart. My brothers and I could match a tank squadron with ease. But Mira, one worker with no foe for miles, light years even, she was just there. I was right beside her, and all I could do was watch her wither away." "We did far more than that, and you know it," she comforted him, giving a large Jax a few small pats on his carapace. "I'm sure as hell we made Mira's last day a lot easier on her. We got her peace of mind. We defended her happiness." Bitey turned to Mira's grave, lingering on the human's words and the events of the previous evening. I agree." He turned back to see Samantha's warm, if weak smile. "She said thank you. Her last words to me were, thank you." Samantha's eyes started to water again. Her voice was tinged with emotion as she spoke. You did good, Bitey." He took a little comfort in that thought. It didn't drain away the negative feelings, but it was a start. He had something to take solace in. A more pleasant quiet took over briefly before the Jax cut in. "I'm guessing you've done your particular job of getting the SOS signal out." Samantha's mood shifted once more. He could sense a new wave of sadness. The difference in emotions he could sniff out was subtle, but they were present. It was not as acute with the passing of Mira. There was something else on her mind. "Yeah, I did. We could be expecting someone to come take us away any day now," she said with a painted-on smile. "Anything else of interest you did in that station?" Bitey inquired. "Nothing worth bringing up." Bitey stared at her in quiet contemplation. "Odd. You have never lied to me before, Samantha." He sensed a new kind of sadness coming over the human. This time he knew clearly what it was. Guilt. Samantha winced and chose to say nothing more. She clearly wasn't comfortable with speaking, so he decided not to continue questioning. He did wonder for a moment as to what could be the cause of a new misery. Why did she feel guilty for not telling him? There wasn't all too much that could be in that station. Some signal relays, perhaps a connection to the navigational satellite. Samantha would have to do that if she needed to figure out the jump signatures and flight paths of any ships entering or exiting the system. The pieces of the dread puzzle fell into place. He realized the one piece of information he could think of that Sam would want to withhold from him. "My brood, the evacuation ships," he spoke solemnly, watching as Samantha hung her head. "None of them escaped the system, did they?" She tucked her legs in towards her chest, bracing herself for the response to his question. "No," Bitey cursed breathlessly as his fears were proven true. It is fine, Samantha," he sighed. "I already knew." She returned a questioning look at the statement. "We had to buy the ground forces enough time to level the city. My brood had thrown every last warship into the system at them, but the Yali still had armed fleet at the end of the battle. It was a fool's hope to believe any of my brood escaped them. Please do not feel guilty for what you did. I appreciate your intentions weren't positive." He heard a brief chuckle from the human. That went better than expected, she managed to joke. Bitey clacked his mandibles a few times with satisfaction. He was glad he could improve his companion's mood, if only a bit. The truth stung, but it was something he was previously on the road to coming to terms with. Lingering on it would make Samantha worry. The pair both rose. Samantha did so with wide-eyed disbelief. "Is that, Bitey asked. Samantha's small smile grew into a wide grin. "Oh, yeah!" she yelled as she frantically tapped on Omnipad. "It's a ship! That's great!" Bitey chimed in. "Is it friendly?" Samantha's glee rapidly fell away to worry. "Oh, it's unknown. Drive signature or design does not mark Lee or anything else in that database of that." "Could it be human?" "It's technically possible. Human ships aren't in the database, but any kind of Confederation vessel showing up in this side of the galaxy isn't very likely." "Scavengers, then," Bitey reasoned. Samantha opened her mouth to speak, but the words caught in her mouth. "Probably. If we are lucky, it's a relief ship. If we are unlucky, it's, pirates." She finally let out. "Either way, I don't want to give up a chance of leaving. I also don't fancy being snagged and sold into slavery by marauders. Again." Bitey preened his sensory spines in thought. "We'll need a plan." End of story. Just a quick shout out to the T5 peeps. Bob the Dragon, Cat Crab Lobster, Data Magnet, Dark Machine, Bezic, Try Again 95, Pudic Yol, Astrea the Dreamer, Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Ithilia, Meridian 117, and Jordan Bucksmorm. Thank you very much. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.